All right, good. All right. To the July 9th. Can you believe it's already July? It'll be Christmas time, just like that, right? So we appreciate everybody being here. Emma, at this time, I will provide an attendance report. Oh, you already done that. Have you already done that? Would you provide an attendance report?
We have 5 members here with us today, 4 in person and 1 online, so we do have a quorum.
Okay, we have a forum, so that's a good thing. Thank you all for coming by on this hot day. All right, so we'll just jump right into the program reports. And I guess first up, we got John. And come on and share us. No other tornadoes or anything that you're
No
gonna talk about?
disasters, only positive things today.
That's good.
To
You
talk
don't have any
about.
floods or anything like that?
Not in Georgia, thank goodness. None that we're responding to right now either. So that's good. Always good to start with that. You know, the first topic on the first slide, you'll see I was going to talk about 2 things. I was going to talk about the 2Gen Academy, but I actually wanted Scott to be here.
He's gonna
for
be here
that.
in 5 minutes.
Yeah, so if you don't mind, I'm going
Sure.
to jump to my second topic first. Emily,
That's
if you don't
fine.
mind. Sorry, I'm messing everybody up, but I'll start with this so that we can make sure Scott's here
All
because
right.
he was actually at the event that I wanted to talk about. So today, going to talk about 2 things. The first one being
Come on, page
business.
8, go to page 8.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
If you don't mind jumping to page 8 and then
All
we'll
right.
pop back to page 3. Scott can be here for that piece, but I'm going to talk about the business process redesign project that we are working on. And I'm going to talk about the 2Gen Academy. So starting with our business process redesign project, we have been dealing with a lot of work over the past couple of years. You know, the Medicaid redetermination process, we had a lot of work in the SNAP program too that we were working through. And that kind of limited our options on what we could do because it was really a lot of like heads. You can for a long time, but we're caught up, significantly with a lot of that stuff. And our timeliness is getting back up to a really good spot. Backlogs are getting really small. And so that gives us more options to look at, what can we do now that we're, back, what's the new normal? And so one thing that I really wanted to do to get us, past that, we're kind of in the 80s for timeliness and SNAP, and to get us that next step, looking at other states and what they do right and how they're able to meet some of the requirements of the program. A big thing that they do is on-demand interviews. So our current process, someone applies for SNAP, we get their application, and then we schedule a specific date and time for an interview. So they have to talk to a caseworker, go through an interview process before they can be eligible for the SNAP program. And so connecting with the person on a specific date and time is a challenge.
From our perspective or from their perspective?
Both, I would say. For expedited SNAP applications, if you have little or no resources, that interview and the issuance of the card with the benefits on it has to happen within 7 days. And so, when the SNAP program has, 700,000-800,000 families in it. So, scheduling interviews, and we have to do interview once a year on renewal. So scheduling all the applications we get, which is about 60,000 per month, plus all the renewals for those, 700,000-800,000 people, that's a lot of interviews that have to happen. And when they're expedited, it has to happen in a pretty short period of time. And so just administratively, that is a challenge for us. And to send them a letter that says, hey, we're going to call you on Wednesday to do your interview at 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock, the mail just getting there within 3 days and then doing the interview, assuming
Can they go online with an app and check it?
They can. So we send them, you get to choose. So we send you physical mail. We also send email notifications to people, and we just started sending text messages too. So the communication has gotten better.
Is there a law that says we must do mail?
We have to let them pick.
We have to pay.
Yeah, so if they request physical notices, we got some physical notices.
And what percentage of them ask for physical notice?
I don't know that off the top of my head.
I mean, I'm
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
you
No,
know
no,
where the line's
I
going.
see what you're saying.
I mean,
I think it's pretty high. I think it's like 70% of our folks are getting them physically. Like you can pick mail, email, or both. And you can opt in or out of text messages. So anyways, that process isn't great. So, because, the chance of you getting a piece of mail within 3 days, that doesn't always happen, especially in the rural parts of the state.
So we have to tell them 3 days in advance.
Well, so we can change that, how many days out it goes, but usually we give them 3 days so it gets there in time so that we have a better chance of reaching them. And then so if we call them, we talk to them that day, hopefully they're able to give us all the information we need, and then we can do the eligibility determination, mail them the card, which again, probably takes another 3 days for the card to get to them from our EBT vendor. That's real tight to make that all happen in 7 days. Like like last week, there was a holiday on Friday. Because that holiday, we had to manually schedule a bunch of interviews or cold call a bunch of people to try to get them in advance of the holiday to make that 7-day turnaround. And so that has always been a challenge for us. And when I started here, I was like, what's the biggest problem we have? And they're like, expedited SNAP. Because it's just hard to meet that standard of promptness. And so instead of doing this system where we schedule an interview, what I would like to switch to is an on-demand interview model where we just have people available to do interviews all the time. And so the clients can call in during normal business hours, and we just have a person waiting there to answer the call and do the interview with them right then. So
admin in the office to take care of the calls that would come in to process the case. In other words, when we did the travel around the state and when you set up those spots to where they'd come in and take care of the issues after the COVID after the lien. What you're doing now is taking that model and putting it in the office itself. Is it sort of, you going to model that or?
Well, so I'd like to direct most of it through our call center because then I can staff it statewide. And
Right.
so most of the folks, even before COVID and, changed us to a work model, 95% of people were doing their interviews over the phone, not in person. The people we're handling in person are folks who couldn't figure out technology or elderly people or homeless people and things like that. So we would still service those people in lobbies, if they need that service. But really what ends up happening is people will go to the most convenient access point. And so it's easier for me to staff a call center with people from the whole state.
Sure.
I got that.
So, yeah.
But it sort of works on the same model that you had when you went
Correct.
out.
It's the same idea. Yeah.
Do I understand that there are going to be more interviews, intervals required rather than annually or?
No, it's only annual. So at the point
So
of
the federal
application,
requirements don't require more,
they do not. So
Oh,
in the
good.
SNAP program, clients do have to
Okay.
check in every 6 months. So
6
you're right
months.
that they do check in more often, but
right,
we only have to talk to them once a
Okay.
year.
okay,
Unless something they put on their 6-month interval it's called an alternate renewal. We do what's called a periodic report, which is basically just has anything changed. As long as they don't say something that conflicts with other
Mhm.
information that we have. So we have interfaces that will tell us if someone gets a new job. We actually get a ping about that. So if we have an alert that says, hey, John Holman got a new job,
okay.
and then they report no change, we can resolve that discrepancy. We'd probably reach out to them and be like,
This might be a question you want to answer later, but with all the SNAP program and with the new federal Big Beautiful guidelines, how is that going to change what we do?
sure. So, we're still reviewing the bill and its provisions. Generally though, we do know that a
Work
lot of,
clause.
yeah, well, SNAP, I'm sorry, I don't know there, but, most of the things don't go into effect for a few years. So we have some time to
Oh,
look at
okay.
that. And, we're trying to figure out which one of those changes will, what the impact will be and when that needs to take.
Next time we meet, can you give us a report on that? That'll give you plenty of time.
Yeah,
to
we'll have
do
a
that.
better assessment of that. And, we're meeting with our folks internally and, DCH, does a lot in the Medicaid space. So they're doing their reviews too. So we'll, have,
I'm just wondering how
luckily we have
much the
some
work
time.
provision is going to change.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
Me
my
too.
question.
Sure.
That's
So-
their big play.
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah,
SNAP-
we need to know that.
Yeah, in SNAP, the work requirement was, the age limit was changed, in SNAP.
Well,
So
unless you're disabled. Or
there are
unless,
exceptions,
Huh?
correct.
there are rare
exceptions.
exceptions,
Yeah.
but you need to work at least 20 hours a week, as I understand it. Is that correct?
Or volunteer.
Or-
There are a
Yeah.
bunch of, yeah, we'll put together a presentation
Okay.
of what those things are, yeah, because it's kind of complicated, or
Oh,
there
yeah.
are some exceptions and the different program, like TANF, SNAP, and Medicaid have different rules. So that might take up a lot of our time today to go through, but it's, yeah, we're looking at it though, and we have time. 'Cause a lot of the provisions don't happen until the end of this federal fiscal year, is at the end of September, but we have until the next one. So we have a lot of time.
When you say you have a lot of time, are we talking about a year, 2 years phase in or what?
A lot of so there are different timelines for different parts of it.
Okay.
So, again, it's, nothing's happening. It's gonna have a big impact immediately right now, but it will happen, starting
Okay.
like next year is when some of the things kick in, but some don't start until 2028 or even 2030 in some cases. So there's a lot. But we have the American Public Health Association we're a member of that. They've been helping us out, and we have policy folks on our team that have been helping us track things. So, definitely staying on top of those things.
All right, good. Sorry I'll get you.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's relevant,
Yes.
because it won't affect this much. If anything, this will help us, meet our requirements better. So really, at a high level, again, just to get back is instead of having scheduled interviews, we'll just have folks available to do the interview when people call in. And so on the next slide, talk about some of the benefits of that. It's just better customer service. People we waste a lot of time chasing clients. If they don't pick up when we call them, they try to call us back and reschedule, and the person's probably doing the next interview at that time. So, this will just help a lot with the administrative work. I think if you call and you immediately get your problem solved, that's what people want, right?
Where is our call center?
Our call center, most of it's remote, but we do have 2 locations. One of them is in Albany,
Okay.
and the other one used to be in Jonesboro. I think they moved that one though recently. Do you know? I will look that up to make sure the Jonesboro one still exists or where it is, but it used to be in Jonesboro.
But a lot of it is just people at their houses that they're on call and they pick up their phone and
Yep.
Yep. I'm working between 9 and 3 or something.
Correct. This I'm actually going to staff with my folks, not with call center folks. So they're
Oh.
2 different kind of workforces.
Okay.
So the call center folks are casework trained, so they can do a lot of casework, and I'm going to have them do, their processes will change a little bit with this, but this is mostly going to be staffed with those same folks who are scheduling interviews now will just be in a queue to answer calls.
Okay.
As they come in. That's a good question. So next slide, 2 other things I'm really pushing with this is first contact resolution is kind of, and key as you go, are 2 kind of just standardizations. It's been a long time since we changed what we did, but just making sure that everybody is doing work kind of the same way, the most efficient way. Really, trying to reduce the number of contacts we have with clients saves us a lot of time. If, we have these things called verification checklists. So like if you apply for SNAP and I need to know your income and you didn't submit a pay stub, I'll be like, hey, you have to submit this pay stub. And while on the interview, and then we'll send them a letter that says, hey, send us this pay stub verification checklist. But instead of, I'm trying to make that a last resort. Can we pull it from an interface? Do we even need it? Make sure that the caseworkers are checking all this stuff before we create a new point of contact. And then while they're talking to the client, be working in Gateway, and you can tell them the outcome of their eligibility determination while they're on the phone, so we never have to talk to them again.
I'm sure it's.
They're not- that sounded
I'm sure it's a
negative.
dumb question, but don't we have their social security numbers?
We do. We have to have their social security.
Then you
number
can
for-
verify it just like that.
A lot of things we can. Yeah.
I mean, even income.
Well, some things, again, it's complicated programs, like if you have a shelter deduction, you can deduct the amount of money you pay in rent, goes into the budget calculation for your SNAP benefit. And we don't accept client statement for that. They have to provide a copy of their lease or show us like their mortgage payment. And there's medical deductions too, and you have to provide paperwork that proves, you spend so much money on healthcare. So it's many things we can use interfaces to verify people's income and their identity and their address and things like that. But we often do need additional information.
This is all this, is the system we have, is all fit, is this all going through Gateway for verification?
Correct.
Gateway's handling the brunt of the work that is designed. for.
Correct. Yes, I'm not redesigning that system too much. We did have to make some changes to flag people, and right now we automatically schedule interviews. But again, that can be challenging sometimes when, it uses the caseworkers' calendars and clients can actually express in the customer portal the best time to reach them. So we try to schedule it when people are available but when we run out of calendar space or a holiday happens, it gets complicated. And honestly, that's like half of some of my leadership's time is spent just like making sure all these appointments happen. And if I could get rid of that, just that gives me so much time to do other things, focus on the important things like quality and developing workers and things like that. So I'm very excited about this. We have already started, we did a pilot last month to test out one of the pieces of it. We're planning to do another pilot either late this month or early next month. We're actually waiting on federal approval. You have to this is a waiver actually to not schedule an interview, but to do them on demand. So we have a pending waiver submission with FNS to do this. But this, on-demand interview is just one piece. On the next slide, you'll see there's a bigger, big review of our business processes are happening. And what I did was I took a group of the field team and I've locked them in a room for 2 weeks. We did a working session for 2 weeks where, we got caseworkers, supervisors, people from policy teams, subject matter experts to all get together and talk about, processing this application takes 45 minutes to 30 days, but a lot of them, it takes 60 days for it to happen. What's the elapsed time? And they did a great job. I have some more pictures on the next slides, if you don't mind going ahead. These are the folks that participated. Y'all have these two, but you can see some caseworkers, some supervisors, some admins, some business support folks. On the next slide, you'll see, this is the room they got locked into. It was up in Gwinnett County, which is a really nice facility, and I think they had a good time doing it. But they produced, on the next slide, they produced some recommendations for me and other leadership to look at. And some I said yes to, and some I said, let's do these immediately, and some we're going to do later. With again, for me, I'm going to start with a focus on the remote support because that's the most efficient way to do the work, and then build out the lobby stuff in subsequent phases. But they're going to produce, procedure guides, consistency tools, a lot of the supports to make sure it works. So very excited about that whole big project, and I'll report back on the status of that as we go to implementation.
You mentioned earlier about a test, pilot program doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a cap on the number that runs through this test procedure for the time, or is it going to be for a certain period of time? Excuse me. What are you looking for the information wise out of that, the test program?
Sure. So, the pilot will be limited in scope, and we'll probably use about like 50 to 100 workers at the starting off, just to make sure that, there's no kinks in the process, that people can call the phone number, they get routed correctly to the right team. And, the pilot I did last month was actually to make sure I'm not like breaking the link. I talked about that verification checklist. Right now, if say I call you and we do an interview and you need to provide me with the proof of your mortgage payment or whatever, and so you need to send that back. When that's sent back, it automatically comes back to me, pings me, and then I process it. So one of the things I'm going to be doing is breaking that link between you and me. So if it comes back in and I'm busy, he could process it too. Another caseworker could process it because that was one of the things the team identified. And sometimes, the clients respond, but we can't act on it because, you got a bunch of other stuff on your plate too. So just trying to remove some of those, waiting periods for the clients and get things processed as soon as possible. So we got to test all that out though, to make sure it routes correctly. And we'll do it, that was the pilot we did in June, and then July or August, we'll do the full, stand up the call center piece. I'm working out the details with our phone vendor and, system folks, trying to make sure all that stuff.
So
works.
as you do this test, or as you do this field test, are you looking at how it improves or decreases customer satisfaction? And then I'll ask you three things: how it affects customer satisfaction, how it affects cost, and then how it affects time.
for sure. That's the point of doing, making, like, the pilot will inform whether we actually roll it out statewide or not.
Okay.
You know, I want to do this, and I think it's a good idea, but we actually did something like this before, and it didn't really go that well.
Why
It's
didn't
called
it?
Georgia One,
Why didn't
if
it?
y'all were around back then. What I think is we didn't have these supports that are up here on the screen. You need all of this. Like, one of the problems with multiple people touching a case is that, you know, when you go back and look at it and there's an error, you know, there's a potential for conflict between the two people who worked on it, for whether it's my error or your error. You know, sometimes the second person who looks at it will want to redo the whole case because the first person, you know, didn't work it the same way they did. So standardizing the work, I think, is really important. And then they didn't have Gateway. They didn't have the phones platform that I have. And they didn't have, you know, the same leadership. Not that I'm not dinging on them, they just not the same tools that we have now. So I think, you know, other states are doing it successfully. And so I think we can do it and make it work. But again, I want to try it out first before we jump into it, because, you know, it is a big risk. You know, we're kind of completely changing the way we work. I'm gonna have to completely change our management structure to support.
What state is doing what you're wanting to go to?
A lot of them are. Kentucky is one that we spoke with specifically, because I was honestly that breaking the link between the caseworker and the VCL. I didn't think that was a good idea. But we talked to some other states and, like, yeah, we do it, it's no problem. And so it will save us a lot of time, and the clients too, because the clients have to wait on us sometimes too. So that's a lot of the calls we get too, where people are like, hey, I submitted my documentation, have you worked it yet? And so someone can answer that, look at it, process it, and say, thank you for what, or maybe, hey, you didn't send the right things.
So when you bring that to us, you give us what customer satisfaction is before, and then what customer satisfaction is during with the pilot. Is that correct?
I honestly don't have a good, like, we can't require people to do a lot of stuff. And so I can't, like, make them fill out a survey. So I don't like.
I know, but you can do like Delta does and a lot of other people, you know, was the 1-question survey or the 2-question survey.
We have that in our call center. So I
Okay.
can do it with call center statistics, and that, like, I can see what I can do outside of
If you're already
that.
doing it one, you can probably do it with the other one as well.
That's true.
So just, I mean, to me, because that's real data, other than, because you don't want to just do it based on your gut.
Right.
Because then if your gut's not right, which it usually is right, but
Yeah.
you want to just have some hard numbers behind that.
Yeah, I think the things I'm interested in, you know, customer satisfaction, definitely one. I don't have a good baseline of that right now, but, like, my timeliness and my accuracy are my two big.
Absolutely.
Those are the ones I'm always working towards. And I'll try to figure out a way to do customer satisfaction too. That's a good, because I do want to know, I mean, that's the point of it, is good customer service. It's not the reason we want to be at these metrics. It's like a timely and accurate decision is good customer service too. So
A good survey would do be.
that's a good point.
Survey.
Yeah, I'll see what we can do in that.
And
regard.
accuracy would be measured by, did I get it in time? Did I get what I was supposed to get?
Did you get what you're supposed to get?
Or was I told no, and that was appropriate too?
That, we have measured that too.
Okay.
So we have two, like, we have one that's called, like, payment error rate. Was that budget calculation I talked about? Did we do that right? And then did we approve or deny them correctly? It's called a CAPER rate.
A CAPER rate?
Yeah, it's case.
Okay.
I forgot what.
New word for me.
Yeah, it's
CAPER?
CAPER. Yeah, it's an acronym. I
Okay,
can see what
okay.
it- CAPER is, yeah. But we have a couple different federal benchmarks that measure that kind of
Okay, cool.
stuff. So, you know, getting those things to where they need to be is the ultimate goal. And those things are all geared towards providing better customer service.
Sure.
So I'm very excited about this. You know, it is a big risk to change, to blow up what you're doing, but I do think now that we're kind of out from under this, you know, huge workload, it's time to really think about what's the best way to serve our customers. So.
Super.
That's what-
Thank you for that.
Yeah, well, Scott's not here, and that's the end of my on-demand piece. So I've delayed as much as I could. So the other topic, and if I have gone over time already, sorry. Okay. Yeah, I wanted to talk about the Georgia 2-Gen Academy. So this is the 2-Gen Academy. If you're not familiar with this, or if you are, I'm going to go through it just quickly for everybody. The Children's Cabinet worked with Carl Vinson Institute. Children's Cabinet is, a collection of state leaders that work on, that provide services to families and children. And like our commissioners on it, DBHDD, DCH, DCAL, they're all part of this cabinet. And they work with the Carl Vinson Institute, which is a group within UGA that does a lot of things for state government. And they developed this agency that pushes the two-gen approach, which is to, when you do things, you're intentionally serving, if I'm giving healthcare to a child, what's going on with the parents in that family? Like thinking about like two generations, two-gen of the family and serving all of them at the same time. And so this program develops leaders within the agencies that I just talked about, all the human services agencies across the state, and teaches them this approach. And then the Children's Cabinet, along with Province Institute, identify projects for them to work on, capstone projects where they look at real problems in the state and propose solutions to them. And so on the next slide, you'll see this is kind of what they do in their class. It's 11 sessions, it's a couple months, and they form little groups and do a group project and then present it at the end. And last month, me and Scott Johnson, when he gets here, he'll tell you about how great it was. They had picked two projects that were for DBHDD, and they picked two projects that were for DHS. So the two DHS projects were looking at Georgia Gateway's customer portal and how to improve the customer experience. And then another one was looking at our relationship with community partners and how to strengthen that piece. And it was a really great presentation. On the next slide, I have a picture of all the graduates from this year. And so it's kind of small, but Bradley Green is up there. He is our Medicaid policy director. He was one of the graduates, and two of the folks from our health and law, two of the attorneys in our health and law policy group also were in this year's cohort. So it was a really great thing. Commissioner Tanner of DBHDD's commissioner gave a speech. I gave a speech that I didn't know about until I got there, that I was giving a speech, but reaction to the presentations, I think they did a good job. And we're gonna, I think, we're doing a refresh of our customer portal actually this month. So towards the end of this month, Gateway is gonna get a facelift, and we are gonna incorporate some of the things that they suggested. They helped us, they gave some input during that process, and some of it we'll be able to take on to the bigger IES modernization project that's getting kicked off too. So that was really great, and it was a good program. I'm going to send two people to the next cohort. There have been 3 total cohorts over the life of the program each year, and so I'm sending 2 people to the next one too. So it's a good thing that professional development. I'm a big fan of that.
How long does it last? One day? Or a week?
Well, it's June to September, and so they have 11 sessions.
Oh,
and the
11,
groups
okay.
meet. The groups meet more often than that to work on their project.
Sure.
And then they do a big presentation at the end of the
Good
state.
professional development too.
Yeah, so it's good for them. They gain skills, and it's good for us. I'm trying to pull together because Lon has some people from child welfare that have been through it too. So I'm gonna try to pull them together and see how we can implement some of those two-gen things
Good.
into our programs too. So, and that was all I have for today. But if anybody, I'm open to questions too. If y'all have questions about that.
No, good update. Thanks for letting us ask you a bunch of questions
Yes.
during your presentation.
No, I like it to be a conversation. So it's good. Thank you all.
All right. So next is Child Welfare Deputy Commissioner Lon Roberts. Good, sir. How are you? Doing well. Doing well.
Good afternoon, everybody. Pleasure to be with you. I believe it's our 9 months together now. So as Chairman said, time is going by, isn't it?
Yes, sir, it is.
Great to be back with you. We're going to talk about some celebrations and also look at some basic data today, and then any questions you may have. First, there's a lot to celebrate in child welfare, and I know tomorrow we have our celebration of excellence, where we'll celebrate the children in foster care who are graduating, our youth who are graduating. Always a very special occasion. I know several of you will be there as well tomorrow, so looking forward to that. Don J. Calhoun, who oversees our independent living program, is there. I'll bring him to our next meeting. We'll spend the next meeting talking about independent living and extended use services. And I think we'll have a good conversation about that. But Celebration of Excellence is a multi-day event, so he's there today, but we'll bring him next time. As we said, a lot to celebrate. We have National Foster Care Month in May, and we had a lot of different celebrations, starting with our proclamation and our meeting with the governor, which our chairman was a part of. So thank you, Chairman.
Mhm.
We had our regional directors, district directors, and our caregiver recruitment and retention unit staff there as well. So it's just a really good event. Next slide, please. But our Foster Caregiver of the Year virtual celebration, a very special celebration. And I really encourage you, I wish we could spend time going through all the bios. I encourage you to read them online, but just beautiful people, beautiful work. It's really what I call love in action. And foster parents, I just want to take a moment, foster parents are opening their home to children to meet their basic needs and really providing a safety intervention for these children, but also really promoting parental dignity by giving the parents opportunity to rehabilitate and to get treatment and to heal, and very likely, towards the role of reunification or custody to their family and other relatives in the family. So just want to commend and thank all of our foster parents. That was a beautiful celebration we had with them. And again, I encourage you to read their bios and details on the website. The cornerstone of foster care altogether, we'll look at some data and some programmatic stuff in a minute, is really safety intervention. As I mentioned, safety intervention and treatment opportunities. And we couldn't do that without foster parents. They're a critical part of the work we do. So again, I want to publicly thank them again for that. And the Caregiver of the Year winners and several other caregivers statewide joined a special appreciation event we had at the Brave Stadium. And so if you hit the next slide for me, we had a special event. We had over 250 attendees, caregivers and families. And it wasn't just a game, a special events, a parade around the field, ball caps, just a real special time for them. And again, it's great to offer special experiences and appreciation of our foster parents and to support retention, but also to encourage recruitment. On the LED boards and screens around the stadium, we had recruitment opportunities advertised on our webpage, fostergeorgia.com, for anyone interested. And so it's really nice. So I want to thank everyone. The lady down at the bottom right with the red Braves, that's Tasia Spooner. She's our director of caregiver recruitment and retention. Her and her team did a fantastic job putting this together and coordinating the event. So I just want to publicly thank them as well for that. So that was great. Again, we'll have Celebration of Excellence tomorrow, but now we'll look at some data, just go through some high overview data points. It's easy. We could spend a day on each of these data slides. So I'll try to keep it brief. Any questions you have, certainly let me know. We can drill down in additional meetings in specific areas. But the first one is intakes. That's the calls that are that into the call center can be screened out, and referred. It can be assessed, and the assessment can go to family support or to investigations. That's kind of the core decision tracks at intake. And certainly you see there's some seasonality. A lot of our data you'll see is very consistent. Some seasonality you'll see in the summer, June, July, school's out. School's a great partner with us and make a lot of reports to us. So school's out, certainly you see a dip there. But again, we'll look at the different programs. These can be screened out. Often it may be a child who's a report, child's over 18, or often we get the same report many times. And so we might get a report from several people. And so we only take one of those, others be screened out. Maybe screened out and refer. Maybe it's an opportunity for some intervention, but there's not really allegation about treatment there. And then again, we can assess it and go family support or investigations, and we'll look at those here.
Yes, question, I'll ask a question.
Yes, sir.
2 years ago, it was 3628. Then we got 1 year ago, 3268. Now, that's 1 year ago. So what's that number at the end of the year, or is that first of the year? What?
That's a great point. This is all, I appreciate you asking that question. This is all the end of the month. So your 2 years ago, 1 year ago would be as of May 2 years ago, 1 year ago. So I appreciate you asking the great clarifying question. That'll be end of May 2 years ago, end of May 1 year ago, and then you got June, July 2024 into 2025. So thank you for asking that. So intakes that are accepted, they're assessed, and then they either go to a track of family support or they go to a track of investigations. And there's our family support track. You see very consistent. You see the seasonality in the summertime as well when school's out. This would be, family support would be a lower risk case. Maybe it's a case that it's maybe some risk factors, young child, maybe some young caregiver. Maybe we've had a couple of reports, but it's usually a lower risk case that we can resolve through short-term intervention, And then a linkage to community supports.
I guess the only thing that I'm concerned about, it seems like that this, if we're going by the school year, like August through, it seems like they're basically funneling us the cases. Is there any way we can alter that to where we can sort of get a better balance, for the whole year? Or is that the only way we're going to catch it is through the school systems?
Well, I think, schools are our number one reporter because they see children all the
Right.
time, right? Law enforcement, hospitals, there are very high percentage of reports as well, but schools really, they make the reports, they see the children more. And family support's a good example of how school works. Family support may be a lower risk opportunity where the school sees the children all the time. So they may see a small issue and they may report it. We can intervene prior to it becoming a larger issue later, perhaps. But there is some seasonality. School obviously is out during the summer, and we do see that, right? You're right about that. We do see law enforcement and hospitals and whatnot do continue to report all year round. But that's a good point. I'll explore that further. Good point, sir. In family support, short-term intervention, we're trying to link them to services, and basically it's a lower risk environment when we're working in family support. Investigation, so again, it's intake's assigned, it's assessed. If it goes to investigations, that's where there's an allegation of maltreatment. We're looking to ensure safety, and we're looking, is there evidence to support and substantiate that there is maltreatment has occurred? And so be substantiated or unsubstantiated. And it's a little more forensic. A lot of investigations may involve working with our good partners in law enforcement, may have some court oversight, again, working with other professionals. But the investigation track is the more forensic track. Family support's a little more supportive track in the investigation track.
Now, does any of this have anything to do with juvenile court in any of these cases where the investigation leads to that, or are we getting into, am I getting off in the weeds with this one?
No, the juvenile court can make a report to us that we do an investigation, right? But often juvenile court may just make a custody decision and place a child into care directly. And that would, yeah, right.
Is this investigation to send them to juvenile court, or is what?
Investigation would be, we go out, we have allegation the child has been physically maltreated, bruised.
Right.
We'll go out often work with law enforcement to kind of assess that. Again, we work with professionals, medical professionals, to assess that as necessary and make a determination whether it's substantiated or unsubstantiated. A lot of them are unsubstantiated, but the ones that are substantiated, depending on the circumstances, may lead to opening the case up for in-home services, which we'll talk about, or into foster care. And so if in-home services could involve working with juvenile court, and foster care certainly requires juvenile court. Great question. Thank you, sir. Investigations. And one thing I just want to mention is you have a lot of consistency in this work. I think that's a good sign. Again, you have some seasonality, but a lot of consistency, a good sign of the agency's performance, that we don't see the staccato. It's very consistent. And I think we have some good processes, really good people behind this work. The family preservation stage, again, that's in-home services, very consistent. We've seen a little bit of uptick into 2025. This would be, you had an investigation and you have typically substantiated an allegation, and now you're working with safety management, you have safety plan, you're trying to ensure safety in the home, and you're also trying to change behavior with case planning. So that's why it's a behavioral change through case planning that could require going to court, getting a protective order that kind of court orders that case plan and gets court oversight of the work. So that is a part of the work often as well. But family preservation is we're trying to preserve this family with intensive services, including case management services. We could have in-home therapists in the home, parent aides, a lot of different supports to reduce the risk in that home and to be able to maintain that home safely.
I understand about preserving the family,
Yes,
but
sir.
I'm more concerned about the child.
Yes, sir. Oh, exactly.
That's it.
Yeah, I understand. I appreciate that.
And I've run across this with some juvenile court judges that I'm close friends with, and saying it's difficult because what happens is there's more emphasis of putting them back into the family, and you got a father that's in jail, the mother is in a rehab facility, and you got a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old child that's being taken care of by the grandmother, and she can't control him. and then we got a problem. And I thought, and you know, again, I go back to my only concern is about the child itself. I don't know how you put a drug addict and a cook together to make a family again. I just don't, I don't know how we do that. We can't do that. So, but my concern is how do we benefit the child to make sure that they have a life?
Right, no, that's
It
certainly.
can't be the parents, but they have to have an opportunity to have a life.
Right, yes, sir. And in these scenarios here in family preservation, the child's not out of the home, has not been put. We do the investigation, we find an issue, we're trying to work on an issue to address it. It's typically, if it's not a foster care scenario, if it was a court oversight here, it's a protective order to monitor it. Should it fall apart, degrade, then we certainly would go to court and look at removal as a possibility at that point. But we're safe, we're really monitoring safety in this situation. Our staff are doing it, our contract staff, communities are doing it, and we're working, a lot of times you have in-home therapists in the home to monitor the safety here and to reduce the risk factor. So in these situations, we're not putting the family back together. We're trying to prevent it from ever having child to be in foster care. But safety is always our number one goal in everything we do. So we're never going to make safety secondary. It's safety is our primary purpose. That's why I always say we do safety management first, and then it's change management. So when these family preservation cases, we're going out first and foremost, we're assessing safety and ensuring safety. And then we're working with the parents on behavioral change. But in family preservation, this would be from investigations into family presence. There's not a removal and then putting the child back into a situation here. That makes sense. So very intensive, and it's a lot of children as well. There's over about 7,100 as of May, might be as high as 7,500. A lot of children in family preservation. So it'd be very difficult. Maybe a lot of children in foster care. I mean, if they need to be in foster care, certainly that's what we want to do. But be a lot of children being preserved in their families through family preservation. And again, it's a lot of eyes and ears involved in family pres to keep that program moving forward and working as it should, which is preserve that family. This is youth and children in foster care. The lighter teal at the top is the youth, the children over 18. That's the population we'll talk more about at our next meeting. When we bring Donjay in here with us, we'll drill down on that population and those programs. But you'll see foster care in general has been fairly consistent. You have some fluctuation, but for the most part, it's been a very consistent number of kids. And children in foster care, again, they're in foster care because the judge has determined that they cannot be, and we will file, but basically the judge made a determination, child cannot be safely maintained in that home. So child goes into foster care. Statistically, about 40% of children will go back home. So 60%, you look at custody to other relatives. You have guardianship as an option to other relatives. Foster parents often will step up and get guardianship. But also at some point, adoption becomes a reality and for these children.
Again, to go back, I'd like for this report to reflect children ages from 0 to 7, from infants to at least 7 years old. Work that out because there's a big different case scenario with youth or 7-year-old children, and then someone that's already established another way. And then I go back to the foster care thing about not foster care, but uniting the family again. You still have the grandmother taking care of the child. The mother is released from rehabilitation. She's out. Where does she go? She goes and lives with mother. So, I mean, are we investigating that? I mean, as far as making sure they're protected or cared for?
Right.
Because that to me seems like we're getting ready to stir the pot again. If you
Right.
follow where I'm headed.
I do. And all this data looks, very like it's point in time data. All the work behind this is fluid, moving constant, a lot of different moving parts. A child who returns home doesn't just return home immediately. It's been a work in progress, and you got weekend, maybe a visitor on the weekend, maybe some extended visits. So it's a work in progress, and there's a lot of monitoring along the way in concert with the judge. And then, so when a child does return home, it's not just like this. It's usually been a long period to work towards that. And then we continue with services in the home. Aftercare, which would be very similar to family preservation type services, we're working with the family as well to make sure that it doesn't, it's not just, oh, good luck and we step away, right? So
All right. Just for grins and giggles for myself, for information. You get a case that comes in and you have a child, that's a problem has been reported, and you have to go through assessments. How long does it take us to do assessments with and as our contractors, independent contractors? How does that wait? How long does it take us to get that assessment where we have it to take before, a judge to where he can make an adequate decision?
well, a safety decision our staff can make on the spot. I mean, I go out in the home and
Okay,
based on what I'm saying, I can make that decision on the spot. This is not a safe environment. Often law enforcement's with us. Law enforcement can be a part of that decision. We can call the court and do an emergency removal. If needed, we do it all the time. Actually, emergency removal based on the condition's so bad, we don't have time to file and go to court. We need to take action right now. And that's something that happens
Just
pretty
a bad,
routinely.
intense situation.
Yes, sir.
You gotta-
Right.
Just to scale it down. Yeah.
Right, exactly. But then sometimes you have situations that maybe aren't as severe. Maybe it just needs a little more oomph to it. Then you can file in court and maybe get a protective order, get a little more teeth to it, so to speak, to help get some movement. But it doesn't require that immediacy that and those situations, maybe you do need a little more assessments and psychologicals or parental assessments, whatnot. And that may take, 15 to 30 days perhaps to get back. But a safety assessment, our staff are trained to do. This is our number one job.
Okay.
They can do it on the spot.
take it another step forward.
Yes, sir.
The child, let's say it's a 13-year-old and he's just a brute. And and he needs to be assessed. The child needs to be assessed. How the defects do we take care of that? Do we have staff members? Do we have contractors that we use? What?
Well,
To assess
Right.
the child.
both. I mean, our staff can do a level assessment. And we're involved around children. We're constantly assessing safety and talking to children around their situation. But also therapists. I mean, you have your child psychologists. You can get assessments on children as well. Our staff can't do that. Certainly be contracted medical professionals do it right. But
Is there a time frame of that or what?
I mean, usually 15 to 30 days typically to get those back, it seems like, right?
And then for the 15 to 30 days, I know I'm in the weeds with this. What's the child?
Well, I think, again, it's important. There's safety and I appreciate your question. There's safety and risk. Safety is present danger, so to speak, is in front of your face. You know it. So you simply don't have to, if the old saying is, if I have to ask if there's present danger, there's not, because it's real obvious. So our staff are trained to see the obvious, and we have assessment tools we lean on. What's the obvious safety issues with the child and with the parent that we act on? So safety is our first goal. And we can do safety planning to address that immediate safety need. That may be a parent leaving the home, maybe bringing somebody into the home, maybe child going to stay with another relative, maybe increasing our involvement in the home, maybe a behavioral aid. A lot of different components could be, but we're addressing that safety factor, which is like right in your face. There's a safety plan, safety steps that address that first. Simultaneously, on more of the risk side, is you're looking at the behavioral change of the family, the child, you're doing the assessments, you're kind of balancing both, but the safety is always going to be here. Every contact, be an investigation all the way through an adoption match, you're always looking at safety up front first, then you're working simultaneously on, strengthening the family supports, strengthening the capacities. That makes sense? So it's not like, it's kind of like this, right?
That's really why I'm asking the question.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
So this is new, and I just want to make sure we cover all the bases with it.
I love it. Yes, sir.
So the two categories of the children and youth are the 18 and over and under 18.
Yes, sir.
Right? And Dave, you're asking about, a younger version of that. What's the value in stratifying it by age category? I mean, because
If the child is, my feeling or my opinion, I think is sort of societal the way it is. The learning age of a child, family wise, social wise and whatnot, and that's developed from when they were born until they're 7 years old.
mhm,
After 7, it's a different ball game. And once, again, it's sort of like elementary education. You get them through the sixth grade and they master the basics. Once they get after that, they'll learn on their own. They can learn on their own. There's no handicap to them at all. That's all I'm
So if you
saying. And
do-
that's just something that's been
Well, if you do,
over
if
years.
you begin to measure that, then you're gonna need to, okay, how are you supporting the 7 and under compared to the 8 to 18
Right.
compared to the over 18?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great concept, but I'm not sure. I mean, your procedures are the same, whether the kid's 8 years old or 5 years old, 8 years old, 12 years old, 15 years old. You're measuring it all the same way, right?
Right. I mean, obviously a younger child has more risk. I mean, there's more safety issues in a younger child, obviously. So you gotta be careful about that. Older child, you has more say in what they want to do. Maybe they
Sure.
want to be adopted or not. So there are some
Right, I got-
differences, right?
Well, okay. Back to all right, we'll go with the numbers. You got 10,449. Is 20% of them under 7? 30% under 7? What's the,
I don't have it off the top of my head. I get that for you. I don't have it off the top of my head, sir. I'm sorry. I know we got it. I think we shared it with the
You shared it last-
committee. Right, yeah,
last-
last time. I can't from the top of my head recall it, unfortunately, but
You got a lot of numbers in your head.
a lot of empty space up here too, it feels like, but, yeah, it's a lot, but we got it. We can get it again. But, I would say, to me, in terms of foster care, the issue is there's bond and children who are older often are bonded with relative family, a younger child, like an infant, so to speak, young child, are more vulnerable. And there's not, sometimes, if a child's born and at birth goes into a foster parent and they're bonded with that foster parent at birth, we got to consider that. I mean, at some point, maybe the child's already bonded with the foster parent. We have to consider that as the permanency option versus reunification. When a child's a little older, I think that's not really as they already have that bond established with the parent. Often children who age out of care go back home to their parents. So family is important. It's a big part, obviously, to all of us and part of children. So I think there is some variance, but we can explore some more in a future meeting. Ultimately, the process is the same. We still want to work to keep children safe, and we want to work to rehabilitate families and give them an opportunity to heal and get treatment. And if that works, great. We want to support that reunification. If it doesn't, then we explore relatives and other options, including adoption. Right? That's kind of how it goes. Yes, sir.
Right.
And we'll skip to the last one here because I know we're going a little over time. Just to adoption, I think adoption is how the start of the process goes from the intake. It's either going to go to a reunification, it's going to go to custody to a relative, or it can guardianship, or it can go to age out, but or it often can lead into adoption. And I think the takeaway I want to leave with the adoption is the adoption, just like all the other data, it looks point in time, but there's a lot of work behind this. It's a fluid thing. And so this is the adoptions that are finalized, Superior Courts finalize the adoption, it's permanent, legally permanent. The magic, the real difficult work often is getting the match, have a child with certain needs or age matching to the right possible adoptive caretaker, making that placement, supporting that placement, monitoring that placement. So a lot of work behind this. And so you do see in November, December, National Adoption Month, November, at Christmas time, you do see a lot of Superior Court judges will clear their calendar and really focus on adoptions, finalizations during those months for the milestone. But these children have been placed. That's the magic, again, is the work to find the match. We have a child with a need, someone who's interested in adoption. How do you make that connection and support it? And that culminates to the adoption itself. So that's how that works. Again, I think we have a lot of moving parts, a lot of staff, 2,700 staff working to do this, 600 supervisors, a lot of moving parts behind this, and a lot of families involved. And we want to always maintain a high level of dignity and respect for everyone involved. And again, it's a pleasure to talk to you about it. And any questions you have, I'm glad to take, or we can talk again, if you want to drill down, we'll talk independent living next time, but we can drill down anything you want. Yeah.
All right, so the 3 categories of adoption or of what can happen is the reunification with the family. All right, and then you said, what was the second thing? And the third thing was adoption.
But there's a lot of different categories. If you look at the primary ones,
The biggest buckets.
right, it's reunification is about 40%.
Right?
And then you have the custody to relative is going to be
Okay.
right now it's about 15%. And then you have Guardianship would be about 15%. That's kind of that biggest. bucket.
Relative/guardian, right?
Right. And so reunification in its own category, reunification is the biggest, but still would be about 40, give or take 40%. You have children who age out, who don't want to stay with us, who actually won't age
Or they
out.
go back to the family.
Right, go back to, a lot of children do that, right? They go back to their family. But basically it's going to be,
So
they go home.
adoption's about 45% then, right? Because we got 10,000 kids in
Right.
foster care.
We got about looking at the data here, we got 40, look at last year, 44% were returned home, reunification with family.
Okay,
We had 16.25% were guardianship last
Right.
year.
yeah.
We had 4% custody to relative.
Mm-hmm.
The number's a little higher this year, but you're not over yet. So that's kind of how, and that's sort of been consistent. I mean, I think we've had reunification numbers varied from 40% to about 44%. That's fairly consistent breakdown of how it plays out. But you have, that's kind of the big
That's
bucket.
64%
Right.
total.
You have adoption, you have aging out.
But adoption, you don't have 45% adoption. The numbers, I mean, so I think the category you're not hitting is the ones that are staying in foster care.
Right, you do, right, you do have the extended youth services, right, stay in, exactly, you do have
Yeah.
that. So we supply more. I mean, I think the takeaway I want to share is that about 40% do go back home. So which is the biggest bucket, but it's still a lot of other options, a lot of family, and guardianship often family as well, but sometimes again, it's a foster parent or someone else. Sometimes a school teacher, someone, a close family relative or friend.
A lot of those folks, a lot of the foster care families that won the awards, I mean, they had, taken care of 150 kids and then they had adopted 3 or 2 or goodness.
Right.
I mean, I was really blown away by that.
Right, it's
And, so.
wonderful work, beautiful work that they do. But as always, I appreciate the passion, appreciate the conversation. Anything you want to know is we're here for. So let us know. We'll tailor future presentations to bring the information you need.
Yeah,
Wow.
the thing
Yes,
on
sir.
adoption though, I think is the big issue to me is, are we making decisions for the family? What's best for the family? Are we making best decision for what's best for the child? I think that's the heart of.
That's the heart of the whole thing.
Mhm.
And so, and then here on, take the last 23, 24, 25 is not over. So let's just, if you just take 23 and 24, whatever the sum total of all adoptions are in 23 compared to the sum total of all the adoption in 24, in 24. The one piece of data that I would like to know is what is the average time once parental rights have been given up?
Yeah.
What's the average time it takes to get a child adopted?
Yeah.
Could you work on that
Yes,
for
sir.
us for next time?
Yes, sir. We can get that.
And because to me, that's,
That's important.
and board members, y'all jump in, but I've heard of different stories where it just takes way too long. And then my question is, so what's the problem? Is it that the judges don't move fast enough on their schedule? Or is it that we're giving the parental folks 6, 7, 8 chances? But to me, that's sort of the heart of the matter. Doug, you got any thoughts on that?
Randy, you just asked my question. How long is the process on adoption? And you covered it perfect.
All right.
That's what I'm asking.
It took us 10 months to adopt once the parental rights were terminated.
Okay.
And I don't know relative to what other stories you've heard.
Yeah,
but,
I've heard years.
The 10 months seemed like years.
Yeah, right. But that's a whole nother
Yeah,
thing.
but you hit on some of the big topics, leaving it out there for other family members to surface. Just, you're kind of in limbo. The family's in limbo.
And then when the other families come, when you call it the reunification of the families or the guardianship with relatives, are we paying those relatives to take care of those kids?
There's some relative subsidy, but not always. It just depends on the circumstance, right?
But sometimes those can muddy the waters, I guess. And so anyway, but
It's complex, yeah, it's complex work.
so I guess let's start with just give us the data. I mean, you've got great data here, so don't hear me not saying your data's not good, but I want to really dive into the whole, how long it takes to get a child adopted. And really, you might even go, another piece of that is how long, oh, Mr. Traffic Man. Okay, yeah, yeah. All right. How long does it take to, the process to release parental rights? You know, to me, is that 3 months? Is it 3 years? I would bet it's more like 3 years. And that's where the whole question and the 300,000-foot question is, are we making decisions that are best for the families? Or are we making decisions that are best for the children? And obviously, that's all intertwined. But any data that you can create or help us understand that can get to those questions, I think would be so appreciated.
Yeah, glad to do it. Thank you, sir.
All right.
And just want to clarify too, the adoption numbers you see here are the finalized adoptions.
Yeah, sure.
There's a lot of adoptions behind the scenes work. So it looks like there's a lot of cases in adoptions. It's just a finalized adoption. So looking at where the children go, there's a lot of children who are in adoption bucket. They just haven't finalized yet.
Right.
So you'll bring us, or somehow come up with those numbers, either send it to us before the meeting or present it at the next meeting.
Be honored.
Is that good?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate
board.
it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see. I guess Mary Lee Bowright. You got a lot of names.
I do. I have a long mouthful of a name, don't I?
That's good, beautiful names. Yeah, yeah,
Thank you,
yeah.
Chair
It takes
Smith
a long
and
time to write.
members
check.
of the
You like,
board.
you like write the whole check
It's a
thing?
long signature. It never fills in and when you have to do the blocks.
Maybe,
It never
maybe you need one of them
works.
auto pen things.
Whoa. No. Actually, look,
All right.
I've heard enough about auto pens.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you for being here.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Ramirez, if you'll just go to the first slide, that is our
Sorry,
vision,
good to see
as you know, fits right into Stronger Families for a Stronger Georgia, because we are working to create communities where all can live long, live safe, and live well. And so appreciative of the board members who are on my aging committee who really dove into the specifics of what we do. Really appreciate that.
That's
So
very
we're-
informative.
We're focused on, home and community-based services. And as you know, we have so many programs within our purview. But today I am focusing on adult protective services and our public guardianship office for the data that I'm sharing.
Yeah.
So you may not know it, but our DAS staff makeup is actually primarily just that, working on elder rights, elder justice, and public guardianship. So 64% of our staff are frontline APS and PGO workers. They are, and then we have 10% that are their supervisors. So if you look at it in sum, 74% of my staff is focused on investigating elder abuse and assisting vulnerable adults and adults with disabilities. So that on the next slide, you'll see, I wanted to preface and share with you here that we pulled the data for year-to-date state fiscal year 25 around the beginning of June. So we don't actually finalize our fiscal year data for another month or so. It takes some time just to validate everything. So as a reminder, our state fiscal year goes June 30th to, or July 1 to June 30th. So the chart here shows that the number of APS reports received annually. And you'll see that in state fiscal year 18, we were just at 28,860. And at that time, it was estimated that we would have a 5% growth year over year of reports. And in fact, we've had an actual 12% increase in referrals year over year. You see here that during COVID years, 2020 to 2021, the growth slowed a little bit, but however, you can see that line is steadily increasing. So I'll point out again that 45% 5,360 is state fiscal year 25, but not all of them, not the end of the year there. Our APS central intake staff who receive and process referrals of abuse, neglect, and exploitation have a standard operating time of 1 business day to process referrals. And they receive them and they determine if it meets criteria for a full APS investigation. On average, 64% of allegations meet criteria for investigation. And we run about that average year after year. Next slide, please. I'm gonna share with you our APS.
You want to go back,
Sure.
go back to some forward. We had this growth, is that growth, and I understand about the COVID years, but since then, is it just because some of us baby boomers are getting older? Is that what the problem is? I mean, is that where the growth
That's
is
a
coming
big
from?
part of it. It's the aging population, yeah. The numbers of older adults and those impacted are, there's more people in the pool to be abused. I hate to say it that way, but that's the number of older adults has grown so much. And unfortunately, I mean, I think there's situations with cost of living increases and things like that that have probably impacted that as well. Cost of housing, you know, those types of situations.
All right, an abuse situation is, are they living with someone, or they, you know, by themselves? I mean, is you know.
I'm going to share with you, I have a slide on the types
Okay,
of
all right.
allegations we receive and the investigations, the top type.
Right.
But it's going to be all across the board. Now, these are all people who are living in community. So we don't investigate those who are living in licensed facilities because we are focused on, there's another agency who does that work. We're focused on people who live at home or in community. I say so that
What does in community mean?
You know,
means like they're not living in an institution.
Oh, okay.
So they could be living with, they could be living on the streets, they could be living in a neighbor's home, they could be living in with family,
in their
they could be
children's
living in their
home.
own home. I mean, it's
Just the number of reports. Now,
Correct.
some of them could be.
But she said 64% were.
64% turn into an investigation.
I got it.
That's
Okay.
A full investigation, meet criteria for investigation, yeah. So you'll see here too on the next slide that with the allegations increasing significantly since 2018, and we've had caseloads obviously rise by 55%. So while staffing levels have remained the same, the national recommended target caseload from the National Association of Adult Protective Services is 1 to 15. Our staff work hard to cover the high caseloads, as you know, and to meet the standards of promptness. And we're always seeking ways to support them better and with these high caseloads, but continued support is critical to ensure that we can serve adults in need.
One question, are we understaffed?
I would say our workloads are high. Yes, we are.
How many
We
more?
could use more staff.
What would I ask? I mean, is there a number or something? I mean, you know, what do we?
We
looking
do
at?
have a number and I don't have that in front of me, so I don't want to misquote it. We've shared, we have the opportunity to share that to our budget staff and talk with them every year. And so we will be doing that soon for the coming legislative session, but we'd be happy to share that with you.
Thank you.
All right, and then as I mentioned on the next slide, you'll see the allegations by type. So this chart just shows the top 5 allegations. And you'll see, I've mentioned this to you before, but financial exploitation accounts for most of the referred and investigated allegations.
Wow.
Yeah, I know it is. Years ago, it was self-neglect, but financial exploitation took that over.
That's the marketing call coming and taking all the money away, or
Actually, it's the children that they're living in their child's house.
And
And
he's taking-
they're supposedly taking care of their money.
That they
Right.
could be taking, yes. It can be family, it can be what you're saying. I mean, there are scams from far away, if you will,
Right.
but it also can be, you know, a lawn company that comes and charges $1,000 to mow a lawn where the neighbor gets charged $80. You know, I mean, there's just a variety of situations for that. So,
Okay.
and I will say that we have done a tremendous job in educating financial institutions in the state. And our FSIU team does education all around to help people identify what financial exploitation looks like. So we get, I think more reports, which is a good thing. So even though you see this as high and you may not see it in other states as the top reason, I think it's because of all the education that we've done out there. So hopefully we're stopping more of those cases from happening. And then you'll see that self-neglect is the second highest, and it's not recognized as a crime, but it is required that we investigate it. And new APS federal regulations actually mandate that all APS programs investigate self-neglect. We've been doing it for years, but other states are having to just start that now with the new regulations.
Self-neglect, give me an example.
Person's experiencing self-neglect. So it could be, a neighbor is calling in because their elderly neighbor hasn't mowed their lawn. So code enforcement actually gets involved. They haven't done basic repairs of their house, and that could be because they were financially exploited and they don't have the funds to do it. There's a lot of reasons that could be why they're doing it. They may need assistance with those activities now because they may not be as mobile. One of the ones that you've probably heard of is hoarding situations. So you have folks who might be hoarding. So then you have family members or neighbors who call those in, and that's considered self-neglect. And we would investigate and then try to, provide resources for that person to get assistance.
An example, I think we had a personal experience with a neighbor across the street. And it was husband and wife, kind of waving back and forth, neighbors. And we'd always see them come in and we'd see them, leave at certain times to go to church or whatever. And they were just everything seemed to be fine. And then the day it blew up was, we ended up finding out both of them have dementia, dramatic dementia. And my wife went over to try to do something to just say hello or whatever. And then it was like, whoa, I just stepped into something. And so
Yeah.
police came and then they had to take them both. They took both but as a next door neighbor, you don't even know.
Yeah.
So.
Now that's a great example, and we would definitely be able to intervene there and get them connected to the
Yes.
right resources, hopefully identify family to help, alleviate the
So-
situation.
Going with the, following up with, Chairman's question. So dementia would be an issue, but, a neighbor reporting it, and it goes to the marshal or sheriff, whoever comes to do a wellness check, so to speak. Who do they report it to? Do they just call, they call, who do they
Well,
call?
we have a line that they can call. That's where our central intake is. And that's, the number that I've shared with you, the 55 aging, 86655 aging. That's actually the way that you can get connected to your area agency on aging, to our SHIP program, or you can report abuse, neglect, and exploitation. And actually a reporter, anybody who's a mandated reporter is actually, the law changed a number of years ago. They're supposed to report to Adult Protective Services and law enforcement. Both. So it requires 2 reports. Many of them don't, but we coordinate with law enforcement on the cases that require law enforcement engagement.
So some of these things are crimes, obviously,
Yes,
and some are not.
correct.
Yeah. So, I mean, there is a distinct, there's a difference, something like crime, but
Correct.
that you offer resources. So there's not a law enforcement.
Not on that aspect,
Right.
although you oftentimes have code enforcement involved in those
Yeah.
situations.
Yeah, so-
Because you have a neighbor who's been, complaining to the county over and over again about the condition of a house or something like that. But, no, you wouldn't typically, as you said, those are not crimes. And so we're not working with law enforcement to go, to try to bring something before the court. So.
Understood. Thanks for
So
stating that.
All right, so on the
Important
next
stuff.
slide, you'll see the average case time. So this is for all completed investigations. So you'll see obviously a spike in state fiscal year 21, which was a result of the backlog from COVID when APS were unable to make the face-to-face contacts with clients that's required. So this is an actual completion time through the full investigation. And so you'll see that they return to normal levels at about state fiscal year 23. But they've, been about the same there. Our goal is actually to complete an investigation in 45 days. So we're not meeting that standard of promptness at this point.
You've never met.
Yeah, in a while.
So how did they come to that goal? If they, I mean, if
Well-
you've never met it since
I
2020.
mean, there are actually standards that the, again, the National Association of
okay.
Adult Protective Services recommends. And so we've built ours on those recommendations.
Okay.
Now the federal laws are changing in a couple of years, and they're actually going to be requiring that we go out within 7 days. And right now our policy is 10 days. So at this point, you see that our caseloads are high. We're at the 10-day is what our operating procedures are, but they're actually, this is the first time that the feds will be putting in official guidelines and requirements, and there'll be a 7-day, not to finish an investigation, just to initiate the investigation in 7 days.
So to follow up, Randy's question is, so we need more staff to get this down?
I mean, I think that would be very helpful to alleviating the situation. We've done a number of things to intervene, but we are working at a really high caseload right now.
Are you able to use the telephone? Like, I mean, now you can get it, you'll see the doc of the box over the phone. Are y'all doing any of that?
What we can do is talk to some collateral contacts by phone. But we have requirements to do a face-to-face when there's an allegation.
Every time?
Yeah, you have to get out face-to-face.
It makes sense. I mean,
It does. I think that, it's necessary to really know what's going on.
know what's going on.
Yeah, and ensure safety.
One thing looking at some of this and the staffing of what it needs to be, as the baby boomers age, I don't know what percentage it's going up every year, but that would also require staff increases to match whatever that percentage is or number is.
Yeah.
I would think. And that would be something you'd have to look at in Randy's world 5 years down the road. Next year,
Forecasting.
will be in 5 years from now.
Yeah, we are definitely, and Georgia's actually, in the top 10 of how quickly that we're aging. And so I think there's 2045 is when the whole country, we will actually see more people over 60 than under 18.
What
But
year?
Georgia's gonna be there before then.
20 what year?
2045 for the whole country, but I believe it's
I think I'm gonna make it.
2038.
I'll be the
2038 for
rest
Georgia. So let me give you some more APS stats here to our recidivism rate. So that is the repeat investigations within 6 months, the percentage of cases that we see again. So you can see that we've had, again, a steady increase in that. And, this, I think, reflects, of course, our increased caseloads a bit, but also more complex cases that we're seeing. And as well, I think an increase too, and you see more complicated self-neglect cases as well. Those older adults living alone, dementia, all those different things that make it complicated. But the other thing is for a case with self-neglect, that's an adult, and so they can make their own decision. They can choose to change their situation. We can give them resources and the ability to do that, but they still have the will to choose whether or not they're going to do that. So sometimes it takes multiple investigations and multiple contacts with that person where they finally decide to make the change that they need to make. So, and then also in fiscal years 20 to 24, we've had some ARPA funds that were specifically for the area agencies on aging to take referrals from us, and where they would go immediately get assistance and they wouldn't have to be referred to a wait list. So it was some funding that was specifically for those types of home and community-based services, and so that was really helpful during that time. Okay, I'm gonna move on to our public guardianship office. This is gonna show you our caseload ratio there. So again, the recommended caseload is 20 cases per case manager. Since 2017, our caseloads have increased by 38% with the addition of only 8 positions. But despite the increased demand, our team, remains committed to the work and focused, and we always continue to pursue ways to support them. But of course, staffing, as you all have mentioned, is essential to keep pace with the aging population. And this shows you our number of persons under guardianship. So I've explained guardianship before, but you know that DHS is the guardian of last resort.
Yep.
We, of course, are trying to exhaust every other opportunity before somebody would go under guardianship. And as you can see, we're at 2,049. And again, that was around the beginning of June.
What is DHS guardianship? What's it? Explain that.
Well, again, we're the guardian of last resort. So that means typically, and I have a slide on here that shows you who is often instigating those and requesting guardianship. Tends to be hospitals, APS can be the one, courts, of course, the probate courts. In fact, if you want to just go to the guardianship petitioner types, you can see here, this chart shows the different petitioners who file guardianship petition where DHS has become the guardian of last resort. And you can see that the top ones are APS, courts, and hospitals. And the other category can cover a lot of different entities that are kind of one-offs or a couple-offs, but.
We got guardianship. Where do we put them? In the box? Put them in a.
No.
Or they get what?
We don't have any magic placements for our guardianship clients.
We're responsive.
No, it's a good question. I mean, we immediately jump in and see what benefits they're eligible for. We actually work with OFI. We try to make sure we've got what they qualify for, and that could be anything from VA benefits to Medicaid. And we typically then also try to figure out housing situation for them. Sometimes they come already in a housing situation, to be honest. That's lucky for us when that happens. But we also have some funds. We have what's called temporary emergency respite funds that we can use to house someone until their benefits kick in. That's a state-funded budget that we have that we can use. But yeah, that's a good question. We do immediately jump in, and our case managers have to, they go often to doctor's appointments with them. They know about, what medical needs they have. They're seeing them face to face once every 30 days at a minimum. So every month they visit every one of their clients. And some of the folks are living in personal care homes. Some of them go to maybe adult day programs. So they visit them in whatever setting they're in. Yeah. All right. If you'll go to the next slide, I'll just share, skip on to the, this is one that we celebrate when we can restore the rights to somebody who's been under guardianship. The case manager is working and trying to determine if they can make decisions independently and working towards that as best they can. And when appropriate, we are working to have their rights restored so that they can live and make their decisions independently.
These aren't percents, they're just the number.
No, this is individual. So you
Individual.
see, it's not a huge number, but it still feels like a success when that
Yep.
happens for sure. And then there are cases where you see in the orange where we have successor guardians. So where we did, through that period, identify somebody close to this person, a family member possibly,
Oh, okay.
who is willing to become their guardian. So the state no longer has to be a guardian. And then I just wanted to share some photos. This is myself and my deputy director, Brian Hay. Try to make it to every one of our DAS offices to meet our APS and PGO staff at least once a year and go out on a ride along with them and talk to them. And just want to give kudos to this amazing staff who is working under a lot of pressure day in and day out and doing a great job to keep people safe. And then I wanted to share that when I started as Assistant Deputy Commissioner, probably a year into my leadership, I created what's called the Adult Protective Services and Public Guardianship Office Innovation Award. And honestly, this comes from my experience of being a social worker in the field and thinking like, I've got a great idea. How do I get it to the top person? And so 2023 was our inaugural year and, really working to promote excellence and best practice and get people to share their good ideas from the field. The opportunity is open to field staff only. So those people who are boots on the ground, case managers, and they can elevate an idea for implementation in each of these 4 categories. Morale, culture, employee satisfaction, workflow improvement, client experience, or community outreach. And I'm excited to say that in the first year we had 4 entries, in the second year we had 7, and this year we had 11 entries. So momentum is building, and even though we can only have 1 winner in each category, we had so many great ideas that we can implement more than just those 2. But I did want to share with you on our next slide that Penny Walden won on the APS side. She's from our central intake team. And just to show you what a simple idea, she just proposed some simple changes to the voicemail that we have when people leave a message, and also to our web intake form. Because of talking to people on the line, she recognizes that maybe we could tweak the language just slightly to improve, people understanding what they were calling about. So, and then Patricia Grant, who is our Public Guardianship Office case manager in the metro area, she did a workflow improvement suggestion, also focused on us developing an internship program for someone to help the case managers with their the benefits and following up on the benefits for each of their persons under guardianship.
Do they get a trophy or a thank you letter
Well,
or
actually-
cash award or what?
But actually, if funds are available, they are able to attend the national conference of their area. So there's a conference for adult protective services, because I
Okay.
feel like continuing education for those who are, excited about their work and wanting improvements is a great way to reward them. So if the funds are available, they get to do that national conference in that year that they won.
Cool.
And then I did want to give you another exciting update. I've mentioned to you all that the Older Americans Act program regulations were not updated since 1988, and then they came out with those in February of 2024. They were effective March 15th, but we don't have to be compliant until October 1st. When I first came to present to you, I said, I don't think there's any way we're going to be ready by October 1st, so we're probably going to have to do a corrective action plan. The department supported us. We were able to have a contract with a group called Advancing States, who has helped us kind of project manage this. And so you'll see on the next slide that they basically did a comparative analysis for us of our existing policy with the new final regs, which were like 135 pages long of new regs. Then they created an implementation checklist for us. And we did a whole analysis. We've had teams working on this as well as our policy section. And I'm excited to say that if everything goes well in the next 3 months and we get everything published on our PAMS policy site, we will be in compliance by October 1st. So really thrilled with that. And that completes what I have to share with y'all about aging.
Will you be in Brazelton
I
next week?
will. Are you
Okay,
coming to
yeah,
that
oh,
conference?
yes.
Okay, great.
During the
Yeah.
Aging,
You
yeah,
gonna be
any
there?
of y'all?
I'm not.
Okay,
Are you?
yeah.
Oh, good. And one other thing you might comment on too,
Yes.
you know, we split up, the folks on the board, and we've got basically two subcommittees, one for the children and welfare side and one for aging services. And the aging services, Wes, Lewis and Jack Williams and Monica are on that side. So, Wes, I know you and I talked about, is he online? Wes, can you, talk to us about what you've done? Cause it's been so helpful. I mean, I've been involved to it too, and to have you shared just different perspectives. And then Wes can tell you about one of the things that he got involved with, and I think it was a good thing. So Wes, talk to us, man.
Hey, yeah. Hey, Chair Smith, can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
Cool, great. Sorry I'm not there, guys. A little family emergency today, so was running to cheer practice and on the road trying to listen to y'all on this call, and I was in and out, so my apologies. But no, really what we kind of looked at was engaging with our regional commission offices, me being in the Northeast region, our Northeast Regional Commission offices in Athens. And so I met several of the staff up there and asked them for any client needs, home repairs, minor home repairs or issues that they may have, in their region. And they connected us with a gentleman that lives in Maxey's, Georgia, which is just across the county line between Greene and Oglethorpe. Met with this gentleman about a couple of months back. He was in need of a wheelchair ramp, and talked to our missions outreach pastor at our church. They went out and looked at the property as well, and then they had a group of volunteers go out and build a wheelchair ramp for this gentleman. I guess they completed that last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. So that was really cool. He was a super nice fella, just very appreciative. So it was great. I mean, we have a kind of a missions bucket in our budget that we were able to accommodate this. And interestingly, the contact that had got me in touch with this gentleman, she reached out after I told her we had done this, and she was like, "Oh, this is great. I got a couple of more." So I have some names and numbers for some clients, one in Social Circle and another in I believe up around Covington. So I'm going to try to talk to some local friends, local churches in the Morgan County area, and see if we can evaluate those two projects and see if that's something that we might be able to coordinate with another church, with an outside entity, to see if we can help out. And I mean, these are really small things. I get it. We're not changing the world, but at the same time, I do think that, if we can manage them on a couple of cases that come up every few months basis, and we have some partners that can help address these needs, definitely is impactful to the people that are getting the service done. And if they all respond the way this last client did, who was just an amazing person. I mean, it was really rewarding. So, glad we could be a really small part of it. And again, I think it's something too that continuing to talk to talked to the regional commission about opportunities. I mean, I think there's enough. I would like to think there's enough people out there, volunteer and otherwise, that would like to participate in these things to improve the quality of life for folks.
That's great. And so I think Jack is on. Jack, you want to tell us about, because one of the things we talked about was, how do some of the other states do things? And do they do it better? Do they work, whatever? So Jack, tell us what you've done in support of that idea.
Sure. Thank you. Hello, everyone. We have authorization from the Georgia State University so that I could use several research assistants that will be working under me. They're coming back in the first week of August, so we'll hit the ground running hard. And what we're going to do is really a canvas or survey of states and how they've been able to get the information out regarding aging services and related services. We already have a template for the research, and we also have a protocol in place. I've got very energetic research assistants. I've got 3 of them that are very excited about the project, and they'll be good to go. And I've been keeping in touch with them over the summer. Their funding will kick in August 1st, and we hope to have regular reports to the committee and to the board as we go.
That's great. They're not just trying to get extra credit from their professor, are they?
Always trying to get extra credit.
Well, thank you for coordinating that, and we will really look forward to seeing that. Thanks for
Awesome. Thank
we-
you so much,
just we
Wes
want to
and Jack.
we want to
and
help. Yeah.
The whole committee. So
Good. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much for that, Jack. We got one last report. Division of Child Support Services Deputy Director of the Systems, Dana. Where's Dana? There she is.
Good afternoon,
afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chairman Smith,
Certainly.
board members. My name is Dana Jones, and I serve as the Deputy Director of Systems for the Division of Child Support Services. My area of oversight is our legacy systems with the business, and then also lead for our system modernization project.
Good.
But today I want to talk about, I'm going to give an overview of our DCSS on-the-go mobile app. Those might not have had an overview of that recently. And then also some brief program updates. And next slide, please. And as always, the work we do with systems initiatives always supports our mission of stronger families for stronger Georgia. And on the next slide, you'll see our mobile app roadmap. So this slide shows the history of our app development. We launched the DCSS on-the-go mobile app in 2016. This was also the first fully functional child support app in the nation. And it's been recognized nationally with 4 different awards, including the Georgia Technology Showcase Award and the Center for Digital Government's Government Experience Project. We are also regularly invited to speak about our mobile app at National Child Support Professional Association conferences. A lot of other states want to know what Georgia's doing and how we did it. Some important business goals for our mobile app include improving customer service, reducing local office walk-in visits, reducing our call volume, and increasing payments to families. We've taken a phased approach to feature development. And this slide shows the key features that have been added with each major update. And providing support to offices and customers by increasing our self-service options is really the key driver when we design future updates and features.
Who built this app for us?
This was done in-house, and we are very proud of that.
Yeah.
When we knew we wanted a mobile app, I think I was not in systems at the time, but I've been told the history, was there were several bids that were done. And our Office of Information Technology took part, and they're like, we can do this. And it has been a wonderful partnership because it's in-house. It's, currently under our CIO.
They get the result of whatever they create.
They do, but they also have a really good relationship with us, because we work so closely with them. They know what we need,
Okay.
and they are not profit driven.
Right.
You know, it is, it is what the business needs is how they're driven.
That's
You
good.
know, so we're able to work in developing features that benefit us, not their bottom line.
That's super.
You know, so it has been a really strong partnership that we're very proud of. And that partnership has really allowed us to have multiple integrations, which I'll talk about a little bit, within DHS and other agents and other state agencies that I don't know that we would get the same level of service. So we're really proud of our business and technology partnership that we have currently. Let's see. My notes. So the slide that you see right now shows what the customer sees after they log into the app. All of the customers' associated cases appear, and then they select the case number to get additional details. The most popular app features appears on the customer's case details page. And our app does integrate with different DHS systems and other state agencies that really supports our functionality. Customers are able to make payments and view their payment history. This feature links to our state disbursement units payment processor, so customers can make payments directly from their phone. And customers can also view and download for themselves a 12-month payment history. That saves them a trip to a local office, or it saves us having to mail that to them. Customers can also upload documents. So they can upload documents and also review documents previously uploaded. Again, that saves them having to mail it to us and saves them having to come into the office to drop it off. They can view scheduled appointments. And when they see that upcoming appointment, there's a little location finder, so they can click on that to get directions to the local office if they haven't been there before. They can also request an appointment. This was a feature that we added during COVID. Back when our local offices were shut down, this feature allowed us to maintain seamless service with our customers because they were able to let us know, hey, I need an appointment, I need to talk. And agents were able to receive that and maintain services with our customers. And it still is a very popular feature to this day. Customers can request an appointment by choosing their preferred method of communication and the date and time that they would like to be contacted. There's also support order details, so customers can view the current support and arrears amounts due each month.
All right, so just so I understand, I've never been in this situation, but I know a lot of people that are. So if I've divorced and my wife got the child and whatever I'm supposed to pay every month in order to support that child, then I can go on this website or this app and, okay, you're $1,000 behind.
Yeah,
right?
if you have a case with us, yes. First, you have to have a case with us, but yes, absolutely.
Well, if they're in the state of Georgia, they get a case with you, right?
There is a state case registry, but unless you have applied for full services, you will not show up on our case system. We have a case registry of orders, but unless you are actually requesting
Right.
full services, it won't.
But
you're
if
not gonna get the
I'm
details.
behind,
Yes.
is there is it advantageous to be on that
It is.
because it protects me legally?
It does.
doesn't
It also, it gives you a legal payment record. So
Right.
there's no question of whether you made a payment or not. That's what we really encourage
Right.
people. Even we have it's a little in the weeds, but it's called non-40. But it's basically a collection and distribution only
Mhm.
type of case where we're your payment record.
Right.
So there is no question of whether you made a payment or not. We
Okay.
have the legal record for you.
That's great.
It is
But-
very helpful.
But so how do we tell, I mean, okay, how many people are in the state? And again, I'm just looking ballpark here, have judgments that they're having to pay their ex, whatever. Is it 100,000? Is it?
I know how many we have.
How many?
How many we have roughly run around 280,000 cases.
280,000, and that, let's just say that's half the total, just for round numbers. Then, if I was the wife, excuse me, if my wife was the one that was the moneymaker and I was the one getting the money, then I would want her on that.
Oh, absolutely.
right? Because I can, so instead of me fussing about, oh, you hadn't sent the money or whatever,
No, we take care of
then
that.
that does all that.
It removes that emotional
Yeah.
barrier. It removes having to, send payments with anybody. We also, there's various ways to make payments that,
That's great.
especially wage withholding,
Right?
that it comes straight out.
Garnishment
It's the
stuff.
guard, and you don't even, it's removed from the check. So it's not
Right.
that extra payment that you have to make. It's
Right.
done for them. It's the largest
It helps with
way.
the IRS stuff too, right?
It absolutely
So,
does. Yep,
I can't imagine why anybody wouldn't be on it.
I know.
Oh, okay. Well,
I agree.
how do we promote it? And do we promote it out there to?
So we
do the
have.
judges say, okay, you gotta pay $1,000 a month, whatever. Yeah, you need to be sure to get on that app. I mean,
I know we have our own internal communications through, our websites. The judges are aware of it because all the judges see us when we come for our contempt hearings and establishment hearings. As far as any other public communication outreach, we can definitely get back to see, how our Office of Communications is reaching the broader population, not just people who already have a child support case with us.
Okay.
And I know some other states are doing,
this is amazing. And
those
how
type
long
of
you been having,
activities.
how long has it been going on?
oh gosh,
A long time?
yes, I want to say since the 80s. And I know from the systems perspective, we've had our system since 1994.
Okay.
So
good.
we're really excited about
It's
getting a new one.
impressive.
Is there a user fee for accessing this? So
Is it gonna cost
now I'm
you
the
$5 a
receiving
month?
end or giving and whatever. So is there a user fee for that, or is that?
It depends. If the person who applies is receiving benefits,
Mhm.
there are ways that fee can be waived, but generally it's a $25 application fee. And
That's it, there's no
then there's an
ongoing?
annual maintenance fee, but only if we have received a certain amount of money. And I would have to get back to you on details. I
Yeah,
think
that's
it's
fine.
roughly $500. Once we receive 500, there's an annual maintenance fee, but that is prorated.
$50 a year?
I'm thinking it's
I mean,
50. Yeah, that's where
It's
we
something
can-
nominal.
Oh, it is,
Okay.
very much so. No,
Okay.
and it definitely doesn't. It's
And the reason you do that, because you don't want the state to pay for all the
correct,
administration fees.
Yeah.
correct.
Does the
Yeah.
state provide any money towards this?
Yes, so we are joint state and federally funded program.
Okay,
The state portion is 34%
okay,
and the federal portion is 66%.
but, so then where does the money, the extra money go that the people are paying in administrative fees and stuff?
That's a recoupment of, it varies. It does vary. Some goes back to the general fund.
Okay,
And I think it depends on
that's fine.
what is being recouped.
Yeah.
Like a genetic test fee, I believe, goes to offset a contract that would pay for that.
And the reason I'm so interested in that, when I've met people and they find out involved with Department of Human Services, then they start telling me about, if they're females, that, my husband's late, blah, 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 all that stuff.
Mhm.
And man, I'm gonna use this now to be sure to tell them
Mhm.
that, or whether it's husband, wife, husband, whatever.
Mhm.
Because, and the thing I love about this, it's not, I mean, she might be telling me that I owe her $3,000 and I might only owe her 1,000.
Right.
Not that she
Right.
would ever suggest that, but,
No.
anyway, but I think it's great. I mean, I've never seen it before.
Mhm. And our county
I know we've got a lot of questions. So instead of the spouse, say that that's paying the child support, instead of paying it directly to that ex-spouse, so they pay it to through this system.
yes, to us, yes.
And the spouse gets the check from y'all
Yes.
or the app.
Well, yeah, it goes to our system. That app
Sure.
just connects to our system.
Sure.
Yeah.
So yes, it hits our system, and then our system disperses it. There's, rules around disbursement. If any money, if the person was on TANF prior, if there's any
Mhm.
money owed to us, to the state, there's a hierarchy of payments, but the vast majority, it just flows right to the parent.
Well, amazing.
Mhm.
It's good.
And it gives that legal record, which is important.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Also, case activity. The customer can see important actions that have happened on their case, including bulletins posted by, so on those features. It's a nice way that agents are almost able to, able to communicate directly with the person. And then a feature that was really popular when we launched it was our driver's license release and status feature. We interface directly with the Department of Driver Services. And so the customer is able to submit a license deferral form to have their driver's license released, or also have to help prevent license suspension. That's been really important. That's definitely helped cut down on people having to come into the office to resolve this.
Sure.
And then additionally, we have links to our communication center where they're able to call or chat with a customer service agent. So this provides a lot of ways to provide services to constituents.
Sure.
And then on the next slide, we'll review a recent update we have made for enhancing our direct deposit. So a recent update was an enhancement that allows customers the ability to request or make changes to the option to receive payments directly to their bank account via direct deposit. We modified the manual paper form to create a fillable PDF, and then developed a workflow to guide customers through the required steps to also upload a voided check and picture ID. Those documents are sent to our internal document imaging system, where they're reviewed and processed by the caseworkers in our case management system. And then we also updated our data warehouse to provide additional visibility to incoming requests to ensure timely review of those documents. And our next slide will show our data warehouse. Yeah.
So if I am doing this and having it directly coming out of my bank account into the other spouses.
So the direct deposit is for payments being received.
Okay.
We do have electronic fund transfer option, our state disbursement unit does, where it can come out of the person who is ordered, come out directly of their bank account as
So
well.
my question though is, like when I go and send money to go, buy something internationally or whatever,
Mhm.
The bank usually charge me a fee for that.
Yes.
Is there a fee? Do you know whether or not they charge the fee? I mean, I can pay my credit card bill through that. It's not a fee.
Mhm.
But if I'm sending money to someplace, then there is a fee.
There is, our payment processor, our state disbursement unit does charge payment or a small percentage of fees on incoming payments, yes. I believe, well, we can get back to you on the exact amounts for the fees. It's all on our website, about $1.50.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's
no,
not
they're not.
$50 per.
Oh, no,
thing
they're nominal.
direct-
No, it's
yeah.
nominal.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
But
Thank you.
then we can also, it is on our website as well,
Okay.
for the fees that are
Wonderful.
charged. But then the person that we distribute the payments to, there are no fees for us to
Right.
send it. Overall, our department has a robust data warehouse that supports our general operations. We also have a dedicated dashboard, which is a screenshot of, that provides data around our mobile app usage. And some really key statistics that we're excited about. We've had over 800,000 documents uploaded. So again, that saved a lot of money. People didn't have to mail those. They didn't have to drive to us to get that to us. We've had over 285,000 appointments requested, and we routinely receive between $4 and $5 million per month via payments made through the mobile app. And so it's a really impactful feature. We have about 165,000 unique people who have logged into our mobile app so far this federal fiscal year. And so a really high percentage of our customers are using our mobile app. And then the next slide will show additional data that's used by our offices. So in addition to that state level information, we are also able to provide our local offices with specific information on the status of documents submitted and the types of appointments that are requested for their office. This is a screenshot of the appointment detail screen that can be filtered by office. Managers can see not only how many appointments have been requested, but the reason for the request, so they can ensure that the appropriate resources are dedicated to resolving those appointment requests. And so the State Warehouse, we're really excited that we're able to continue to build that out, to give our teams information they need to be able to manage more effectively. And our next slide, please. So now I'll shift gears real quick to some general. Our executive leadership team, we have been initiating visits with our local child support offices this year. That was an important initiative for us. And during these visits, we share updates, answer questions, and provide support for any challenges they may be experiencing. From February through May, we visited 4 of our largest offices, all that were in the metro area. And then last month, we were able to visit 3 offices in the southeastern corner of the state. And pictured here is our Gwinnett office in Lawrenceville. And on the next slide, you'll see our Cobb office. The offices that we've been able to visit so far this year represent 13% of our offices. And because 4 of those offices were our larger metro offices, we've actually visited almost a quarter of our total DCSS staff so far. You know, we've really enjoyed engaging with our employees in these visits, and we plan to continue visiting additional offices in the coming months ahead. And on the next slide, another recent highlight we wanted to share is our official relaunch of our DCSS internal newsletter, the Peach State Dispatch. The latest issue was released at the end of May, and this marked our first issue since April of 2020. You can see a snapshot of the April 2020 version on the left and the new look of our May 2025 issue on the right. And then on the next slide, we'll talk about some additional details about the newsletter. You know, a few highlights from our recent issue include highlights on our system modernization project, a spotlight on one of our state office units, the performance management unit, which recognized some of the excellent results from their recent compliance reviews with our offices, and then general performance updates. This relaunch of our Peach State Dispatch, it provides an opportunity for our employees to share best practices and accomplishments with their peers throughout the state. It allows us to share key performance and program updates in an engaging format. And it provides another communication channel we can use to engage our employees and other partners. And we greatly appreciate all of the employees who contributed to the latest edition, and a special thanks to our DCSS communications specialist, Derek Brandon, and the Office of Communication for the excellent work on the graphics and design of the relaunched newsletter. Future issues will be released quarterly, with the next one expected in August. And then one final update that's not on here, the National Child Support Engagement Association, or NCIA, will be holding their annual leadership symposium in Atlanta the week of August 11th. So this leadership symposium is an annual conference for the child support community to share and celebrate the application of best practices, partnerships, and innovative thinking within the day-to-day management and operations of the child support program. The symposium provides a unique focus on nurturing content and future leaders. Nurturing current and future leaders in the child support program. Several of our DCSS employees will be in attendance, with many serving as speakers and volunteers. We're really looking forward to this exciting event, where we'll get to share some of the great things going on with the Georgia Child Support Program, as well as learn from some of our other child support peers throughout the nation.
How many people gonna be there total?
I think it's roughly around 460 some.
That's good.
Yeah, it's a really big conference. I was really excited to attend. And then finally, on the last slide, if y'all have any additional questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Yeah, I don't. Anybody? Thank you. Great stuff. I'm just so amazed that I've never heard of the app before.
Oh, well, glad we were able to give the
Thank you.
update. That's why we wanted to give it, just to make sure. We hadn't done it in a little while, right?
Thank you, Dana. All right, so administrative reports. Go to the presentation on the board resolution proposal by the Office of General Counsel. Oh, there you are. Okay, good. All right. I didn't have a name associated with that. Julia. Okay.
Yes, very nice to be here this afternoon and to meet all of you. I'm not sure I've met you before. My name is Julia Fisher-Strauss. I am an attorney with the Office of General Counsel. And I have been with the agency for nearly 13 years.
Wow.
But usually when you have a member of the Office of General Counsel here to present something, they're presenting a rule or a regulation. And that is not what I'm doing. So we're
Okay.
going to go into a different muscle that the board has as an option. And I'll explain a little bit about that. And I think it is the most simple thing you will hear all day.
Ooh, I
So
like that.
coming from a lawyer, that probably might not be. But,
Okay.
yes, we can go on to the next slide. And obviously, we are here in accordance with the vision of the department. But let's get to the heart of the matter. So a board resolution, this is not something that the DHS board has done in a while, but we think it's the most simple solution to a situation that's going on. What you heard earlier from Ms. Boatwright Quinn is that there are these new regulations for the Older Americans Act which have come out. A lot of it is things that we've already done or already have in place, but we want to make sure that we have proof of that. The lawyer likes to have proof. So that we propose to have a board resolution to formally assign the administration of Title III of the Older Americans Act to the Division of Aging Services. And this is because there is a new regulation for conflicts of interest, which goes beyond what our state general conflicts of interest for employees are and relates specifically to Older American Act Title III programs. And this is allowable under the DHS board because the Georgia law allows for the board to assign responsibilities, functions, powers, and duties in a board resolution. So basically, we've already been doing it this way, but it's not in print. And now there's a new regulation and we just want to tie the two ends together and have the board formally assign that function so that we know who has to be checked annually for that conflict of interest. So the next slide, please. So the new regulations that I just mentioned talk about the designated state agency. Now, Georgia law designates the department as a whole as the designated state agency. We have sole state agency for the Older American Act responsibilities in general. But the new regulation requires that we address conflicts of interest for administrative duties for Title III programs involving staff, officials, and volunteers who perform those administrative duties. Now, not all states have their Older American Act agency within a department like the Department of Human Services. So we're looking at we're talking to states in our region and then the nation about how they're going to deal with this new conflict of interest regulation. And some of them are having their entire department every year go through a conflict of interest check. You can imagine for all of DHS, if we have all of our child support services workers and our DFACS workers who don't even know what Older American Act Title III programs are, and they certainly are not involved in the administration of it, that would be a huge burden to have that check every year. So it would make sense if we review that annually within the division that does that work, the Division of Aging Services. We must be in compliance, as Ms. Boatwright Quinn said, by October 1 of 2025. We think we can do this with our new policies and procedures that are coming out for our division, but there's this conflict of interest check, and who do we do it on every year? So next slide, please. As I briefly touched on, because I'm trying to go quick, because I think that we can handle this quickly. The department is the one who's under state law in OCGA 49-6-2 is the one that's designated as the sole state agency. The law also specifically statutorily establishes the Division of Aging Services, but doesn't put into law what its duties are. It says those duties can be assigned by the DHS board and commissioner. So the DAS staff performs those duties and responsibilities which have been assigned. Heretofore, they've been pretty informal, like Division of Aging Services handles these duties. But now that we have this new conflict of interest requirement in this new regulation, next slide, please, we just want to tie those together. Title III programs are the programs of aging services that you hear about the most. So our Title III programs are our congregate meals, our home delivered meals, our senior centers, telephone reassurance, health and wellness programs, in-home aids. And those programs are administered by the staff at the state level within the division. It wouldn't make sense for your child support worker in Valdosta, Georgia. They might have a spouse who is the senior center director. But that child support worker is not making the administrative decisions, so that isn't a conflict that there's any sort of financial gain or benefit to that employee. But that's what we're gonna check at the Division of Aging level. If you have a spouse or a family member within that conflict of interest and you are making those responsible changes. So we just want to make it very simple and have a board resolution that says these duties have been assigned by the board. And then if or when we get audited, we can point to that. We could still pass an audit without that, but it would be a lot more time consuming, a lot of interviews, all
Cleaner.
of that.
Yeah.
So we put on here what happens if there is a board resolution and what if there is not. So we are asking the board officially to adopt a resolution to assign the administration of Title III Program and Services of the Older Americans Act to the Division of Aging Services within the Department of Human Services. And then those division staff will be the ones who go through the annual conflict of interest check for this new regulation. And I think then we would.
Does this have to have a public reading, public?
So
We
again,
will
yeah.
in just a minute.
We differently than a rule or regulation, it doesn't have to go through the two-phase and the vote.
Yeah,
The board
that's
can
what I'm
just
saying.
adopt a regulation. It will not go on the Secretary of State website. It will be housed here under our board resolutions. And we will have that available again if there is a check, but it doesn't have to go through the two-step. You're used to a rule comes and they come twice. This isn't under that same promulgation rule.
Yeah. And just for my own clarification, can
Yes,
you give me just an example of a conflict of interest? You gave an
So-
example of what wouldn't be, but. what would
Yes,
be
so a
conflict?
conflict of interest, we're checking that anyone who's responsible for making decisions for the Title III program, that their spouse and immediate family are not the ones that might be making a financial gain or benefit from that.
Cousins,
So there's a slight definition change between the state rule and the federal, which is again why we're doing this, but the way that the federal one for this program says spouse or household member, trying to use the right
Okay.
word. I think that adult children. So we are looking at just a slightly different member. So if you do have a household member that could be your cousin, could be your brother-in-law, that will come up with this conflict checked as well.
okay.
Yes, and so again, just making sure that there's not any internal gains and we have that conflict check. And we do have a board resolution.
Yep.
That has been drafted and I think provided
Yes.
with some language. So maybe, Mr. Chairman, is there are there any other questions? I'm sorry.
No, all right. I think what we were planning to do is to,
Do that during the meeting. You have to call a meeting.
I'm sorry? No, I hadn't done that yet.
Keep him on track.
Give me a second. I was gonna call for a break.
That's what I'm doing right.
Y'all wanna have a break real quick, 5 minutes, or you wanna head on?
Let's have a break.
Let's have a break. Let's do have a break. 5 minutes. I got my clock right here.
All right.
All right, and it's gonna go off in 5 minutes. Thank you for this.
Okay.
Thank you. Well,
Hey, baby. What'd they say? Hmm.
The EMT took her back to the place and I just met him there and she was like falling asleep. I
Did he say anything about her heart rate being
mean, it was like a 40.
and the doctor? Did you talk to the doctor at
I
all?
mean,
Yeah, but I mean, did you talk to the doctor though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got choked up and he was like, I'm just kind of walked out and they sent in like a person, I guess, to help with emotional people.
Hmm.
She was very sweet. The EMTs came in and I got emotional with them. I was like,
Hmm.
she's lost a lot of weight.
Hmm. Um. Yeah, I'm. No, I saw that pod. I was like, we didn't have three.
Barbie, I'm gonna, call the meeting to order. Is that good?
That's good.
All right, good. We got a couple of different things to do. All right, the board resolution, we're gonna address that. We've got the attorney in the room if there's any questions or whatever. So, I'm gonna go in and read it and then ask for a motion, and then whoever wants to jump in can do that, and then we'll vote. All right? So, the board will now consider the adoption of the proposed board resolution to assign the administration of Title III program and services under the Older Americans Act to the Department of Human Services, Division of Aging Services, in accordance with the provisions of OCGA. I don't know what those two little things are, but 49-6-5 and 49-6-2. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, Dave Barbie. I move that the proposed board resolution to assign the administrative administration of Title III Program of Services under Older Americans Act of the Department of Human Service Division of Aging Services in accordance with the provision of OCGA 49-6-5 and 49-6-2 be approved and adopted.
Is there a second?
Second, Doug Aldridge.
Doug, okay, thank you, Doug. It is moved and properly seconded that the proposed board resolution to assign the administration of Title III program and services under the Older Americans Act to the Department of Human Services Division of Aging Services in accordance with the provisions of OCGA 49-6-5 and 49-6-2 be approved and adopted. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, we'll just take a vote. Is there any discussion from the folks on the phone or here live? Okay, so all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
How about phone? Okay. All right, I'm assuming, and all those nay? Okay, we didn't hear, so it passes. And so that's the last of that, I guess. Anything else, Ms. Lawyer?
I think that's.
Okay, good. We appreciate you articulating all this stuff for us. So, and then the other vote that we need to take is for the minutes. The April 9th minutes meeting have been distributed to you. Are there any corrections? And if there aren't any, is there a motion to accept the April 9th minutes?
So move.
So moved. Is there a second?
Dave Barbie, seconds.
Dave Barbie, second. All right. It has been moved and properly seconded that the Board of Human Services minutes for the April 9th meeting have been approved. Any discussions? If not, then we'll take the vote now. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Nope. Okay, good. It passes 100%. Okay, it's other meeting that we've got a meeting on October the 1st. Will be our next big meeting. And I just want to encourage everybody, if we can be present here.
And timely.
Well, yeah, it's always true with that. You're usually timely. All right. And anything else anybody wants to bring to the board?
Well, yeah, we were talking earlier, just about the potential to have like an executive session.
Okay.
In a future meeting, and I don't know, since we have general counsel here in the room, I don't know if that's something that needs to be approved or it's just something that we can enter into. We're not trying to take any action, but I think because the group has been split into two subcommittees.
Yep.
I think more FaceTime and more collaboration with the group as a whole to maybe share
But
what
it
we learned.
depends on the topic,
Sure.
because there are only certain topics you can do. in
Well,
executive
you can have executive session without any approval from anybody.
Oh,
All right. And so other boards that I'm a part of, you can do that. Now, unless the state has any particular reasons why we couldn't. But if not, then I would tell you, if we can't do it, we'll just meet socially and go from there.
We got counsel here.
We can review with our general counsel office, but there is in state law for state boards reasons that would make it available as an option. It might be a little bit different with state boards than private sector boards.
Well,
but there
why don't
are
you check into that for us and
Yep.
we'll make adjustments based on what you find out.
Okay.
All right, that good? Thank y'all. That's good. But when we've tried to do this before at a pre-meeting, we were bringing people together and just have some time. And then they showed up, but then there's we can do it post-meeting, or if we do it enough in advance, we could just have, okay, we're gonna do it on this date. And we could ask everybody, choose which dates, and then, we'll go through those gyrations. That's how we do it in other board meetings too. So which would be y'all's preference? Would it be preference to try to pick a date out there or to do it before? I would say, best case, it would be before the meeting and not having to worry about traffic, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What would be y'all's choice?
Mr. Chairman, some of you who have been on this board for a while know we had retreats at one time. which was
Yes,
a
we
great
did.
thing.
Yes, we did.
It would be the vice.
That's a
I
great
said
option.
we should consider the reinstitution of that.
Okay,
And if we want to talk to Commissioner about it, you and I can do
Right.
that, or any of us can do that, but, it allows us, executive session obviously is for personnel, legal and
Right.
and those things, and that's closed and we don't need that, but we do need
Talk
time to
about
spend together to, institute some rapport and some idea sharing among the board members, which we can do.
and we've had good success with that with the two subcommittees, but I think we can even do more of that, if we all meet together. And maybe we only do it twice a year kind of thing.
Sure.
But, is that okay?
I was going to.
Offer your house to come to?
Yeah.
Yeah, we like to go to investment.
Yeah, it's right there on Washington Road, there's a little golf course back there.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Anyway,
no, but I was gonna buy what Scott was suggesting about, we did have those sessions and they were, we'd go to various locations.
Yeah. That was
within
great.
the region, and that we had purview over, or it was under our
Right.
authority, and that's where we'd go and we'd have. our-
Visit and
we'd visit and we'd see it, and we also would cover.
have a couple of meals together
Right,
and,
and discuss the issues
yeah,
and discuss the various departments.
all right.
And especially in the region where I'm headed was backing up where Scott was this. See, we haven't had DFACs under our wing except for the last 2 years. I'm sure there's a lot of information we'd like to discuss and possibly have them go over some of the rules and things that it's necessary,
Right.
because I think we've talked about that what are we, it's our, it's our cheeks, it's gonna get slapped if something happens.
Yeah,
Well, and I
Oh,
mean,
gosh,
yeah, yeah. And it has the additional benefit of, because we've done it, as you said, Barbie, the, field offices around
Right.
the city. And we had one at Warm Springs at,
Right.
Mhm.
but it also connects us to the people in the field
yes.
and connects them to us. I mean, how many times did we hear that I've never been a board member before? Gosh, you guys,
Yeah.
thank you for coming to see us.
Right.
And that
Yeah.
sort of thing. Let's
We
do it.
did,
Yep.
we did hear.
Let's do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, I will make
Thank you,
commitment that,
Scott.
during my discussion with the commissioner, that we'll make that an issue and we'll finalize that and we'll make the assumption. But when you get the email from me that says, here's 2 or 3 dates, 4 dates, whatever, that you can participate in, then unless there's death or whatever, please, honor that. Cause that'd be, not good if we didn't do that. So,
Right. Does that require an action,
no.
motion?
Mm-mm.
It does not. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so
Good discussion.
any other things? Anybody want, thank you for bringing that up.
Sure, thank you.
Really appreciate that. And I guess the other thing we didn't mention before is my final thought of, I told you about, we got 2 committees, that, and the aging and then the children side. And we didn't really talk a lot about the children's side, but, when we started talking about what's best for the child and what's best for the families and all that, that's something that group is working on. And so we'll have a report on that next time. All right.
Also, let me say that Emma, Emily and the team that they do a great job of coordinating that.
Yes, they do.
And getting us together on those calls and reminding me when it's time to call in. And all that. That's really important. But
She doesn't do that to anybody but you.
that would be true.
You're the only one she has to.
But also, getting the right people on DHS staff, whether it's DHS or DFACS staff, to focus on a particular issue. And recently it's been hoteling, or
Right.
recently it's been education for foster care. And those are valuable to us and educational for us as board members. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, for coming up with those ideas. And I think, I haven't asked our leaders, but, you know, hey, if you're, and I'm sure it would be okay, if you're on the, I'm on the
Children.
the children's one, but you're on the aging one and we just want to join in with us sometime.
Right.
I know Emma and Emily would be glad to send you that link so you could take advantage of that and
Yeah.
hopefully vice versa. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
because they're great value.
And I would say the other thing is that we've talked about a little bit of training stuff where we could, so that's a whole nother issue that I'm talking to the commissioner about.
Yeah.
And we'll talk more about that later. All right. Yes, sir.
Something, can I bring this up, Randy? You and I discussed it, was talking about the rules. You know, and do we
Yeah.
want, is that something we want to even open up for discussion or just leave it alone?
Let me, I've talked to couple of you guys about that, and I've still got to do some work on that. I've got some of those rules that I need to send to y'all. And so, I'll follow up with everybody on that.
Okay.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank y'all for your attendance. Thanks for your focus. Thanks for your, that you care and that you do what you do.
Thank you.
Any other thing?
For your leadership.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
my pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Emma, anything you'd like to talk about?
No, sir, that's it.
When are you getting married?
October.
Huh?
October.
October, wait a minute. Hold on there. You gotta be at the meeting, right?
I will be at the meeting at the end of October.
Oh, we might have a little fun with that.
Yeah.
Okay, when's the wedding day?
October 25th.
You can't change it now, okay? October. And we got our next meeting when?
October 1st.
All right, I sure hope October 25th isn't the Georgia Tech game. It's what?
It's a bye week.
It's the bye week. Oh, so smart. All right, thank you all for your help in